welcome you to another deep dive. Today, we're stepping into a story that wasn't just captivating, well, it was genuinely chilling for a lot of people online. A digital mystery that really blurred the lines between what's real and what's fiction. We were revisiting The Sun Vanished. It was this alternate reality game, an ARG, that it grabbed people and terrified them because it felt like it was happening right then, right on their feeds. If you were with us last time, you know how unsettling this gets. If you're new, well, buckle up. We've got some updates, some twists, and honestly, some stuff that just makes it even darker. So our mission today, piece together what happened next in this whole saga. We're going to trace the protagonist's attempts to survive, look at the psychological toll, and how the creators just layered in these creepy details that really stick with you.
Yeah, what's incredible about this ARG is how it used platforms we all know, like Twitter, right? To make it feel incredibly personal, like you were right there. But it was also this huge global feeling threat at the same time. It wasn't like reading a book. It felt like watching a crisis unfold live, almost like digital found footage. It showed how powerful that can be in making you question, what's actually real.
Okay, right. Let's get into it. For anyone just jumping in, The Sun Vanished starts with this simple, terrifying idea. The sun is gone, just vanished. So the world is dark, constantly,
Right.
and cold, and oblivion, really.
Wow.
Last time, our protagonist was dealing with, well, everything being upside down, these scary red lights, weird noises, and starting to really doubt his friend Dan Yin. But things got much, much worse. Remember the noises outside? They really escalated. It wasn't just faint sounds anymore. We're talking loud, constant banging on the front door, like really trying to get in. And just when you think, okay, maybe it's just banging, the thing, whatever it is, it gets inside the house.
And that moment, the home invasion, that's just masterful horror writing, isn't it? Your home is supposed to be your safe space, your sanctuary. When that's breached, especially by something unknown and hostile, it shatters that feeling of safety completely. The story uses this so well to ramp up the vulnerability. You realize nowhere is safe. And it's clearly looking for the protagonist, not just wandering in.
Yeah, terrifying. So our guy hides for like a whole day, just frozen before this thing finally leaves. But the front door, left unlocked, wide open. And weirdly, no house alarm went off, which is another unsettling detail. So after that, understandably, he tries to boost security, mentions something about a high-tech system, red cops behind a door. No idea what that means. Sounds kind of desperate. And then he even tries the old tins on a string trick, like a cartoon trap.
Which just shows the desperation, right? You're resorting to these almost comical, futile measures against something unstoppable. It highlights the helplessness.
Exactly. Then things shift again. Dan Yin gets back in touch. Apparently, he'd sort of stopped taking the crazy pills, as the source puts it. So maybe he'd been acting really erratically. But now he contacts the protagonist with his own creepy confession. Dan feels like someone has been coming into his house while he's asleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the same thing. Our protagonist, already freaked out, decides they need to check this. Is it paranoia or is it real? So they do the old horror movie thing, scatter flour on the floor inside the door, see if anything leaves footprints. Well, let's just say the results weren't exactly comforting.
Yeah, footprints. And for the ARG, that's huge. It's not just a feeling anymore. It's visible proof, makes it tangible. It shifts the threat from something maybe distant, the lights or noises, to something right there, inside your space. The psychological impact of that is immense, both for the characters and for the audience following along. Imagining finding those prints? Shiver.
Definitely. Okay, so remember earlier, way back, the protagonist got messaged by someone from British Columbia. And the message was basically, stay away from the red lights. Or you'll end up like whatever this was. A really dire warning. Well, that BC contact messages again. But this time, no words. Just an image. One picture. And apparently this image is so disturbing, it starts giving the protagonist nightmares. And the screaming outside starts up again. So this picture has a massive impact. And it makes the protagonist start doubting Dan Yin all over again. Like maybe Dan's been exposed, changed somehow.
That image arriving without context is such a smart move for this format. It leans into the fragmented nature of the storytelling. It strongly suggests what happens if you get too close. Transformation, not just death. A really horrifying consequence. And because there's no explanation, your own mind fills in the blanks, which is often way scarier than anything they could explicitly show or tell you. It really solidifies the idea that these things change you. It adds this whole other layer of dread.
Right. So faced with this thing apparently getting into the house at night, the protagonist decides, okay, I have to get out. Packs bags. Makes a really weird choice, though. Decides to go to a neighbor's house, the same house where they'd heard screaming coming from repeatedly.
Yeah, moving towards the screaming doesn't sound like the best plan.
Not really. but I guess it felt like the only option. Anyway, they get inside the neighbor's place, and they find something useful, a notebook, like a journal. And this journal explains what was happening in that house before our protagonist got there. It talks about experiments. Someone was trying to figure out the creatures, specifically how they were attracted to light. Apparently, they seem to prefer artificial light even more than people, which is interesting and creepy. But the experiments went bad. The person writing the journal looked into the red light, and the last entry just says, chillingly, at least the sun's back for them.
Wow, okay, the sun's back for them. What does that even mean? Assimilation. Some kind of twisted enlightenment. It's a huge piece of lore dropped right there. It suggests these things aren't just monsters, they're tied to light, or maybe the lack of it. And exposure means becoming like them, or joining them in some way. It takes it beyond just survival horror. It's existential.
Yeah, exactly. And like clockwork, almost as soon as they read that, the knocking starts again. Outside this house now. It gets worse, more frantic. Then they see a head banging against the window, not human, and then they're inside. Again, they just follow.
Oh, man.
When it seems like this is it, game over. Dan Yin shows up out of nowhere, comes to the rescue. Our hero manages to escape, runs to the car. They get in, and we see there's a gun in the car, which feels maybe necessary at this point, but also intense. And then silence, on the feed anyway, for about 3 weeks. Nothing.
That silence must have been agonizing for the people following in real time. Did they make it? Did something happen? It's a bold narrative choice for an ARG.
For sure. Finally, though, the tweets start again. Turns out they drove way out into the sticks, trying to get away from civilization, away from the lights. They were out of cell range, hence the quiet period. Makes sense. But the protagonist shares a video. Taken while they were leaving town, it looks like a star. Something bright in the sky that just kind of flares up and disappears. Which is weird because remember, the sky has been totally black. No stars since the sun vanished. Right, so what was it? A real star coming back. Or one of their ships, something else. The ambiguity is key there. It leaves you guessing, reinforces that even out there, maybe they aren't safe. That little flicker of light could be hope, or it could be the exact opposite. Great storytelling. Definitely keeps you on edge. But even escaping doesn't fix everything. Things start breaking down between the protagonist and Dan. They argue. Dan doesn't want the protagonist uploading everything to Twitter anymore, maybe afraid it'll attract attention, or just thinks it's pointless. They fight about what to do, where to go. You can feel the tension, the isolation getting to them. Then they see something else disturbing. A wrecked car. And the protagonist has this thought, like, they're taking over, man.
Suggesting it's not just them, right? This is happening everywhere. People are being caught, changed, adds to the scale of the disaster.
Exactly. Then, the next day, Dan goes to find gas. And he just doesn't come back.
Oh, no.
Gone. Just like that. Leaving the protagonist completely alone. And the protagonist's phone is dying. Which, okay, the source we looked at joked this was the least realistic part, how long the battery lasted.
Hey, yeah, phone batteries in horror stories.
Right. But narratively, it works. It's the clock ticking down. The connection to the outside world is fading. So alone. Woods. Phone dying.
Yeah.
And then figures. They've been found. The lights are there too. Something is walking around the tent. The protagonist goes out to look. Why? I don't know. Curiosity, resignation. Goes into some nearby crops, tall crops like 6-7 feet high, and sees a giant figure towering over the crops. Massive, terrifying. July 17th, that's the date of the last tweet. The protagonist says they're powering down the phone, asks for good luck. And that's it. Nothing since. Just silence. End of the story as far as we know.
That ending is incredibly powerful because it's not an ending, really. It just stops. The giant figure, the phone powering down, it leaves everything hanging. It emphasizes the isolation, the overwhelming nature of the threat. And for the audience following the ARG, that lack of closure is maybe the most terrifying part. The story just cuts off, leaving you to imagine the worst. It suggests the horror just continues.
Yeah, it really does. So that's where the sun vanished left us. So many questions, right? Is the protagonist okay? Probably not. But we don't know. Did Dan ever return? What happened to him? Were they taken? Changed? By what? Alien, zombies, light creatures? Will that account ever tweet again? We just don't know. This whole thing really shows how a story told in fragments, using familiar tech, can create this incredibly deep sense of dread, real uncertainty. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How much do we just take for granted? The sun coming up, stars, being able to just call someone. How fragile is our sense of normal, our sense of safety?
It really makes you ask, if the world you knew just unraveled, if the basic rules changed, what would survival even look like? What skills, what knowledge would actually matter when facing something so completely unknown?
Heavy stuff to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty unsettling deep dive. We love finding these kinds of stories that really make you think. Hopefully, this sparks some thoughts or questions for you too. We hope you'll join us again next time for another deep dive.